Welcome to Reach, your platform to connect with other executive assistants and acquire game-changing knowledge and perspective. Reach is designed to inspire your workday, guide you through pivotal moments in your career, and transform you into the executive assistant you've always wanted to be. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Reach. I'm your host, Jessica Van, founder and CEO of Maven Recruiting Group, and I have Elle Tyra in the studio with us today. Welcome, Elle.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you. Likewise. I see we're both wearing blazers today.
Yes. Blazers always appropriate.
All blazers always, yes. Elle currently supports the president of ABC News, and Elle has built a remarkable career supporting very high-profile executives in the spaces of news, media, and also the art world. And she supported everyone from the chief operating officer, who then became the CEO at the New York Times, to the president of Hauser Wirth, one of the world's most prestigious contemporary art galleries, to now supporting the president of one of America's most notable and iconic news organizations, which, as I mentioned, is ABC News. So what makes your story so compelling is not just the places that you've worked, but also what you've lived through on the job. And in particular, your career you've been at the center of many significant leadership changes, changes to executive staff, people moving to new roles, the arrival of new leaders, even major industry shifts and changes to the industries that you work in. And so figuring out how to hit the ground running in these environments while not losing your footing has been something that you have repeatedly both had to face and conquer. So we're going to be talking about how you've confronted these changes, and instead of them becoming destabilizing in your career, how you've actually risen to the occasion every time, and what advice you have to our listeners who may also be going through change, whether it is purposeful or sort of thrust upon them. I think that's kind of what happens a lot of the time in these situations. So that is going to be the focus of today, and really understanding how you think about your own evolution and ascension in this career. So again, thank you and welcome. Let's start with your journey. People always like to know how you got to where you are.
Right. So, one of the things that even sometimes I can kind of drift away from is the fact that I have a background in art history. I studied art history in my undergrad. That's what my master's degree is in, and that's why I moved to New York to get my master's in art history. And one of my first jobs right out of school was at a major art gallery called Gagosian. And I started there as front desk associate, and I did really well at that and was selected to move on as a sales assistant to one of our prominent sales individuals. And once it became apparent to me that sales wasn't the route that I wanted to go, I started thinking about what some of my options might be within the gallery. Did I want to be an artist liaison, or, did I want to go into, curation? But I had a knack for the assistant work, and I just kind of thought, is this something that can translate into other industries? What if I go corporate with this? How far can it go? And I never dreamt that it would have landed me here. I never dreamt that it would still be growing for me now. But I transitioned from an art gallery to CBS Interactive. A friend of mine was working there, and she heard someone say, "Oh, I just really need an assistant." And she was like, "Send me your resume right now." And she put my resume in front of her. And so I ended up working for 3 VPs, marketing, financial planning and analysis was one, and business intelligence was another. But they rolled up to someone who worked in operations, and that was what really resonated with me, kind of seeing how all of these lanes of business roll together in order to execute the strategy. That was just something that really resonated with me, and I knew that I also wanted to grow in my career and eventually land in the C-suite. So when I saw a role for the COO of the New York Times, I just thought, I'm going to go for this. I'm never going to get
Mm-hmm.
it. I'm going to apply. And when they called, I was like, oh my gosh, I did apply for that. Yes, absolutely. I'm ready right now, right? Like grab a pencil and run into a conference room and take the call. And all these interviews later, I'm working for the COO of the New York Times, and she transitioned to CEO. And that was something that I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
expecting at all. When she transitioned to CEO, I mean, that just did tremendous things for my career and for hers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's when my skills really developed. They really had no choice but to grow. I had to grow at a pretty rapid pace. And when I wanted to take on more, the thing that kind of felt right was doing that at a smaller company because you could just have more responsibility in a company where you wear more hats. And the art world had also come calling. At that point, there was a president of Hauser and Wirth who was looking for an assistant, and so I got recruited and she wished me well, and so I went back to the art world.
Mm-hmm.
And when it was time to move on from that, at that point, someone remembered me from CBS. And when the president of ABC News was looking for an assistant, he said, I think I know someone. And
Mm-hmm.
so I got a call to go work at ABC News. And then when she retired, I was very clear that I wanted to stay and I wanted to work for the successor. And now here I am.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just been a little bit of taking each thing as it comes and knowing the opportunity that feels right for you. And now here I
Mm-hmm.
am.
Yeah. And shooting your shot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's something to go for it if it's your dream.
Yeah. Right.
And yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
something that I still am not shy about doing. If it's something that I
Right.
really want to go for, there's only one way to know.
Right, right. And we've
Right.
we've had other guests on the program that have talked about this feeling of like a little moment of imposter syndrome, right? That I think is natural, right? Especially when you're doing something that is unprecedented for yourself, such as supporting a COO at a major news organization that we've all grown up with. I mean, that's understandable that there would be that moment. And I think that it's a lot of people's ultimate success and ability to ascend depends on their ability to push through that brick wall and kind of work through that imposter moment until it's no
Absolutely.
longer an imposter and you just are.
Yeah, and I think what was really unique about that transition was I wasn't just going from supporting three VPs to supporting a COO. I was going to support a COO with a 24/7 style. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was really intimidated about this always on factor. But
Mm-hmm.
looking at where I was in my career and my trajectory, I said, I'm at the age where I can still do this. I can take on the hours. I'm going to do this now and lay this groundwork now. So I was really taking into account where I saw myself going, where I was at the time, and it paid off. I don't know that I would have the stamina for a role like that now in terms of what the role was when I first took it on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think even having said that, if I were to go into a CEO role now, and I mean, we can talk a little bit about the interview process, knowing what I know now, being clear about what that looks like when you are going to manage the operations of an office at that level, that's an experience that I have that I can speak to
Mm-hmm.
that gives me a little bit of an authority going in terms of my skill set, but I wouldn't
Right.
have that if I hadn't taken the leap.
Yeah. Fair. So thinking about change in general, um, I think for many of our listeners, change is something that they struggle with. And like I said in the introduction, I mean, there's sort of the change that you precipitate through your own decision making, and then there's the change that's just sort of thrust upon you. And I mean, I've encountered EAs all the time who will say things like, oh, I joined this organization because the executive and I just hit it off famously, and it was, such an amazing connection. And, they're the big reason why I joined the company, only to find out 2, 3, 6 months, whatever, into their tenure that individual's leaving. And so I think that's a fairly common situation and also a betrayal to an extent, right? Because a lot of times these transitions are known, whether they're communicated and broadcast to the broader organization is another story, but a lot of times these transitions are known to the executives. And so there is also that betrayal too of, gosh, like I joined for you. So I'm curious about how you've dealt with those kind of similar surprise leadership changes and what thoughts you have for listeners about that.
Sure. I think the biggest thing is assessing the opportunity that you could have if you stay. Right. Because sometimes you're already in the seat. Take a look at how much experience you have, whether it's your tenure in the industry or within that specific role. You might be bringing an acumen and an institutional knowledge that could be very invaluable to the successor. When Kim Godwin retired, I was very clear that I wanted to work for the successor. I had no idea she was going to retire, so it was a huge surprise to me, but I knew that I loved the company that I worked for. I knew that I didn't want to leave at all. And when I got the information that she was retiring, I began working on a 90-day plan for the successor. And I also approached the leader at that time who was overseeing the division in Kim's absence, or in that kind of gap between presidents, and made my case clear to them. Because you also don't know if the person coming in already has an EA. I was a little bit rolling the dice as to what would happen, but you want to have faith in the company that you're with, that you're going to get a little bit of notice and a little bit of opportunity to find something if it doesn't work out. But just think about the opportunity that you could have if you do stay. And you need to think a lot about what your motivators are. Is this an opportunity to go elsewhere and make more money if you're financially motivated and there is more money to be made elsewhere? Are you looking for consistency? And this is something that where you are is going to offer you more consistency, or you're going to find more if you go elsewhere. Are you looking for more duties in your role? Are you looking for a promotion? Think about all of that. And, those are conversations that you can try to have if possible. When I started working with my current boss, we just kind of met and we hit the ground running. I didn't know who it was going to be. And it turned out to be a great thing that I stayed. We get along really well. But all of that to say, when the rug is kind of pulled out from under you, I know it can be really hard. But just think of that moment of change. Sometimes if life is also redirecting you to something else, of something better, just kind of have faith in your situation and what you're going through and what you bring to the table. Know that no matter what you're going through, you're going to land on your feet because you know what you have to offer.
So when that change happens and you stick around, you see it through, what are strategies that you've found work well to build trust and confidence quickly with someone who doesn't yet know who you are, what you're capable of, and you are effectively in many ways starting over?
Right. I think in the most recent situation of supporting the successor, I handed him a 90-day plan that I'd worked on that had top 10 or more things that he would need to come up to speed on quickly, whether it be an upcoming board meeting or ratings or whatnot, whatever industry you're in. What are the things that they need to come up to speed on ASAP, or things that are top of mind in the company or that were top of mind for the preceding person? I put that in front of him along with a 90-day roadmap of how I had mapped for him to hit every bureau, domestic and in London, top talent, whether it be a dinner meeting, a coffee meeting, what I would suggest, execs on either side of the business. So I'm putting this in front of him and saying, I'm handing you the keys to the kingdom. I've already thought ahead.
Yeah.
And I think also for me, I find using some of the language that is going to speak to them, saying, we're midway through the quarter. Do you have any priorities or things that you want to get to before we get to Q3? Showing that you're already thinking quarterly. Asking them what's top of mind. Is there anything keeping you up at night, so that you want to partner with them more than just getting key dates down? Because yes, you're going to need to know your anniversary, your kid's birthday. Those are also important things. But just coming right out of the gate with wanting to understand what's important to them and what's top of mind, but also showing if there's something that you specialize in or have an expertise in, or
Right.
meetings you've had. Maybe you come in saying, I've been spending this interim time doing my own coffee meetings with the existing leadership, and these are some of the things that are
Right.
on their minds if you want to bring them to your one-on-ones.
Yeah. I think that's a wonderful example. I mean, it's you're really surmising in a very succinct way everything they need to get up to speed, from the lens of someone who's been inside. And so you're really communicating a couple of things with that. One, your organizational knowledge and, your ability to help them navigate what is an unfamiliar terrain for now. But you're also communicating your alliance. And I think that's really important because you're saying, here you go. Like, I'm already on your side,
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And
yeah.
I do the same thing for myself if I'm going into a new role. I bring a 90-day plan that doesn't just list, getting my badge and getting my
Hmm.
cell phone and those sorts of things, but I might have week 4, understanding the business model,
Hmm.
understanding our strategy, right?
Hmm.
Just pointing out that those are things that I want to learn as well. And they're seeing on paper, wow, these are things that she really wants to dig into. Taking
Right.
my own one-on-ones with key leaders, starting
Right.
to read through the last earnings script, whatever it might be,
Right.
you are putting yourself in front of them immediately as someone with an appetite for more than the entry level, most obvious things.
100%. And you're also using your seat. And I think that's a theme that we have constantly really tried to ingratiate, and this idea of the EA seat being this incredibly powerful viewing point, right? It's courtside. This is
Absolutely.
like
And that's
it's
what I
like the
love
Knicks
about it.
game. We just finished the NBA playoffs. This is courtside of the Knicks, right? Like, you're in the best seat in the house, and
Yeah.
you have such a privy. You're privy to such a wealth of information, and also like the point that you made about even just identifying the key talent, right? Like, you know, these are not things that they would be able to know without somebody from the inside saying, so and so is a little, was really loyal to the predecessor and they're struggling with their transition. And I really think you should bring him into the fold sooner than later. And I think the way you should do it is this, and this. Like, this is
Right.
like really important insight that an EA, I would say, uniquely can offer.
Right. And or just don't be shy to ask questions they wouldn't expect you to ask. Are you thinking about making changes to your leadership team? If so, do you need me to get you time with the head of HR so you can start to map out who some of those key individuals might be? Or is that a conversation that you want to help me think through? Or that you want me to help you think through?
So at the New York Times, we touched on this, but you were hired to support the COO, Meredith Cope at Levian. She then became the CEO. So what did her move into the CEO seat? What did that mean for you? And how did your job change with her transition?
That is such a funny time when I look back on it because the EA who was in the role at the time decided to step down because she didn't want to support a CEO. She didn't want to work with someone at that level. And it turned out they had been interviewing me the entire time, knowing she was going to take a CEO role. And they were actually interviewing me to see if I could be EA to a CEO. So that was a huge surprise when they told me. And I was like, I didn't want to be EA to the CEO either. At the time, I was like, this wasn't something that I had in mind. I didn't want the pressure and the visibility and all of those things. But Meredith really believed in me, and she has this way of making you believe in yourself. When Meredith is rooting for you, you feel like the most powerful person in the moment. And so she said, this is going to do tremendous things for both of our careers. I'm so excited. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go for it. And there was an EA to the CEO at the time. He hadn't left yet. And she just briefed me on this is how it's going to look when things change. This is what to be prepared for. And that was the time that I also got an EA coach. This was someone that I trusted, and I knew that I was going to have to sharpen my skills. And Meredith said, absolutely. And that was just, she was instrumental. Her name is Melissa Peoples, and she was really instrumental in my growth at the time.
Nice.
And I feel really privileged to have worked with someone that believed in me enough to bring in that support system. And I mean, executives get executive coaches all the time.
100%.
So why not get your EA a coach while you're at it? And we both really grew together.
Yeah, I love that. I love that your company was supportive of that because
Absolutely. I mean,
yeah,
and I would not be here without that time in transition. But I think one of the biggest differentiators between the role was seeing that she had to become far more strategic as a CEO. And that meant me also understanding a new style of workflow. So you're
Right.
seeing someone who's going to take on really key issues, form them into shape, and then trust them to be handled by her leadership team. So we may only be in the weeds of something for 3 months, 6 months, and then you might not see it again except for a regular check-in. As opposed to owning it solely for the duration of the project, we might get the project off the ground, or she might have an idea, give it to her team, and then pass it along. So that might be an opportunity for me to check in with the team, see how the project is going, and be an ear to the ground if she needs updates. That was definitely one area of
Right.
growth for both of
Which,
us.
I mean, it makes sense, right? Because when you're, and it's not that the COO's job is not huge, it is, but it's a more focused perspective versus now being responsible for the entire, all the colors of the rainbow versus just like some of the rainbow, right?
And I have to say, one of the things that was really special about Meredith is from day one, she told me, you can join any meeting that you think is going to be of use to you. So I got to really absorb the way that she thought, the way that she led, what was important to her, the people that she would really lean on. And that helped us both in the transition as well.
Which meetings did, just out of curiosity, like which meetings did you think were really pertinent to get up to speed on?
I mean, I definitely would join as much in terms of strategy as I could. Obviously, any like weekly staff meetings, but things in at that time the New York Times was growing their app. And so as much of that as I could join, any finance meetings because I don't have a background in that, so just kind of learning some of that language. What goes on in those meetings? What are they presenting to her? How is she absorbing the material? What is the feedback that she gives? That was really huge.
So you touched on this a little bit earlier about how you like to create a structured framework, not just for the incumbent executive, but also for yourself when you're entering a new environment, thinking about, how you want to enter, what do you want to learn, what do you want to tackle. So can you speak to that a little bit more about what your framework includes? And what is really important for you as a person entering a new system? What is really important for you to understand and nail right away?
One of the biggest things that I want to understand is our business model and our strategy, because that's going to be at the heart of who we are and how we move forward. And that's going to be our North Star and the thing that we're going to always want to circle back to, kind of regardless of all these things that will sprout up around the periphery. I want to understand what our business is, what our mission is, what our strategy is, how we make money, because at the end of the day, everything is going to circle back to how well we're succeeding, right? That's our measuring stick. I would say beyond that, what's most important to my executive and how I can support them most. What makes them feel supported? What makes them tick? Their habits. As sooner you can understand how they're moving and thinking, I can see my boss and the way he turns the corner, know what's going on. Right? So the sooner you can get a pulse on that, how the two of you connect, do you have a banter? Just you want to hit the ground running with all of those things. But for me, it's about understanding the business model, and that's also the thing that makes me tick. right? That's one of the things that I love most about the role is the proximity to the things that are top of mind for my exec. So I would say not only that, but just knowing what's going on in the industry, whatever industry you're in, what are some of those things? If I'm in an interview, one of the things that I'm going to ask is, what are the three largest hurdles that you're currently facing? I want to suss that out right away of what's top of mind so that I can start doing some research. Right. For one person, it was this is a job that I didn't end up taking, but it was building factories. So before I even get the job, I can do some digging on a little bit of what that looks like. So I'm just like not going in, bare bones.
Blind. Yep, definitely. So I think I feel like a lot of people desire to move from what we consider more kind of tactical support to more strategic support, right? Like the true high lift, high leverage types of work that you've been describing so far this whole conversation. So there's definitely a difference between somebody trusting you to get things done and also somebody actually trusting you to be a thought partner and to be capable of being that that ally. So what advice do you have for someone who really wants to move and shift from kind of that mode to a more strategic mode?
I think some of the biggest advice that I would give is shaking off the imposter syndrome. If you want to have conversations at that level, you have to believe that what you bring to the table and your advice and your perspective are valuable. And sometimes they aren't necessarily valuable for why you may think you may be the only woman in the room. There are times when I look around and I'm like, wow, if it weren't for me, there wouldn't be any women here. Wow, if it weren't for me, there wouldn't be any minorities here. Depending on what it is, you just may be a voice that's needed. And I think just not being afraid to ask the questions that maybe no one has asked, but ask your executive, how are you feeling about this project so far? I've been observing so and so show up this way. Is this a point of frustration for you? I mean, it's going to depend a lot on the rapport that you have with your leader. And I think one of the key things is that if you haven't established yourself that way early on, it is really hard to make that transition. And I don't think it's just in the EA role. That's a really big leap to try and make if you aren't being seen that way right away. Being seen in a new light can be something that's really tough for anyone. But if you are going to kind of step up to that level, then just go for it. Know some of what they're dealing with. I don't know if you're in their inbox, ask them about things, flag that you're on the chain or that, this is a ball that you can help them move forward. Can I help you move this forward? I was having a conversation with so-and-so and this might be something. Is this something I can take off of your plate? Maybe just starting with that. I think when it comes to conversations that get into thought partnership, I mean, don't speak up if it's not an area that you're not confident in, just simply because you want more of a seat at the table. But if you've got an expertise and it's of value, just be confident in speaking on it.
Where do you think, when you think about your career, where do you think that shift happened for you, if you were to plot it, as far as like that inflection point?
I was taking one-on-ones with executives under my CEO at the New York Times. And I sat down with someone who had been in the subscription business forever. And she said, Elle, I've been in the subscription business for over 10 years and I'm still feeling intimidated to speak up in some of these meetings. So once you realize it's not just you, you can have a firm grasp of the material and still feel intimidated. Or having an executive pull me aside after the meeting and say, I'm really glad you asked that because I was thinking the same thing. That was crucial. And there was a meeting that I was in at the Times and I brought something up and the CMO piggybacked off of my comment And I thought, wow, I've shifted the conversation in this C-level meeting. And then from there, I think that I just had the confidence to go with something and speak up if it was truly something that I knew needed to be said.
Yeah. Well, I think that's how confidence works too, is it kind of snowballs. And you put yourself out there a little bit and you get the right kind of encouragement and buy signals, and it emboldens you to take more risk and keep trying and keep showing up and inviting yourself into rooms and discussions and meetings and all of these things.
Absolutely. And I think it goes the other way as well. Feeling confident that you don't have to speak up right now because you know that you're going to get another turn. This conversation doesn't need me to add to it. It's doing fine without me saying something. This is something that I can bring up on the side after the meeting. So
Yeah.
not just feeling like you have to jump in every chance you might possibly have. Sometimes sitting quietly and observing pays off, because I've had someone say, I want you on this project because I've noticed that you're an observer. And you don't always speak up, but I know that you're paying attention and you know a lot more than you're letting on. So
Yeah.
it could pay off either way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's the EQ element and the reading the room element that is so important in this role. So for an EA who is joining us today and is thinking and relating to a lot of what you're talking about, maybe they're in the middle of a transition right now, or they're about to be in the middle of a transition. What is some parting advice that you would offer to them, or something that they can really think about and implement in the next 30 days?
Absolutely. If you are thinking about a transition, I would say take this time to understand what your non-negotiables are and what you really want for yourself. And some of that might be you really want to go hybrid, or you really want a certain salary, or you're not going to work for an executive that has a working style that doesn't work for you. Figure out what those non-negotiables are and be really confident in sticking to them, because you can find the right job, but you have to have the confidence that it's going to come around. And I think the other thing is just knowing what you bring to the table and understanding what your niche is, and that's going to inform how you move throughout the process. I'm at a point in my career now where you kind of go from interviewing to just try and get the job to interviewing to make sure it's a match. So if I see a job description and it's a job that I'm interested in, but I can tell by the way it's written, this is a job where I'm going to need support. One of my key questions that I'll ask in an interview is, how did you come to the determination that this is the role that was going to be the right fit for the CEO or the president? How did you come to writing this job description? Okay, well, based on the way that it's written, it looks like the person in this chair is going to face burnout within a year or so. Do you have a plan to bring in support for them? Right? Just like the more that you can hone in on your expertise and have that confidence, the more that you start to interview them as much as they're interviewing you, and just realize that you're looking for the right match ultimately. But that's going to start with you knowing who you are and what you want.
Your non-negotiables.
Absolutely.
So we have a tradition on this program where we ask you who you would choose to support in the history of the world, time, all of that good stuff, dead or alive. So I'm going to ask you to think about that. But I also see, is that the joy of cooking behind you in the background?
Cooking is over there, but there's more
Oh,
cooking. But yes, I
what's
do
the
have
one
cooking.
that plaid one? Isn't that Julia
Yes.
Child?
This
Who's
is
that?
Better Homes and Gardens.
Oh, Better Homes and Garden. I recognized it from somewhere. Anyway, I was like, maybe she's going to say Julia Child.
But I do have
Anyway,
the joy of cooking.
I mean, you must, right? If you're a cook.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who would you support?
Okay, I'm gonna make a last minute change because I had to think about this one. I would love to support Amy Capilazzo. She is someone in the art world that just
Okay.
is a powerhouse in her own right. I think she's done a lot for females in the art world, and someone that when I first came to New York was eyeing her in terms of her career. And I think that it would have been really cool to work alongside her and see her just trailblaze for those coming behind her.
Nice. I'm not familiar with her work. I feel bad admitting that, but I'm
No,
not.
she's just an art world cool girl. So
Yeah, right. I will definitely look her up after this program, though. Yeah, it's great. Well, this has been really great. Thank you, Elle,
thank
for
you.
talking through all of these. I mean, I really love the examples that you gave about, thinking about how to really support through a transition and like really thinking about that playbook and kind of that handoff and how to leverage your EA perspective and knowledge to be so vital in that handoff. So I think there's a lot for people to really process in that and think about and reflect on, and how they can actually feel more empowered in that moment versus disempowered and panicked. So there's a lot there. And
Thank you
yeah,
so
thank you
much.
for sharing your incredibly impressive career with our listeners.
Well, thank you for having me, and it's been a joy. It's been a pleasure.
Reach is brought to you by Maven Recruiting Group, who specializes in placing executive assistants and support staff to the Bay Area's most prominent executives and companies. If you've enjoyed being part of our podcast community and are interested in becoming part of our candidate community, we're currently hiring for roles in San Francisco, Silicon Valley, and Los Angeles. You can visit us at www.mavenrec.com to see some of the roles we're currently working on and to submit your resume.